Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to our brand new episode. It's episode number 37. It is our first episode where we're broadcasting to 5 social media networks. You can watch us on Brownsville Tech Live, on YouTube, on Facebook Live, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. So you can catch us both on video and audio if you're on the road. And tonight it's going to be a special event. We are covering the latest product releases from Apple that were announced yesterday at Apple Park. And we've got some exciting products to review with you. And once again, we welcome Doug Blunt. He's the Apple guru of gurus for the RGV, and he is my co-host tonight. Doug, welcome back.
Glad to be here, Danny.
All right, Doug, it was pretty exciting yesterday at Apple Park. They had a lot of product releases. There is a brand new phone, actually a brand new phone and a couple of variants of it. There's lots with regards to an Apple Watch, different variations, some AirPods. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of a rundown? I'll go ahead and flip to the theater real quick. Give me 1 second. Alrighty, so we're actually live on the Apple website. As I mentioned, they had an Apple event. So could you give us a little bit about what the event was all about? And then we'll go through each of the products.
Well, they talked about, Tim Apple, as I call him, and other people call him Tim Apple. Okay. He introduced it, and then he handed it off to all his subordinates. It's pretty much the same format that Apple's been following since the pandemic. Okay,
Yeah.
and that way they get everybody else involved in it. Back in the old days, they used to just have Steve Jobs and
Forrester.
some
What was his name?
Forrester. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And then the marketing guy, like you can't even remember now, but now they've gotten old. They made their money. Now they want to spend more time with their money.
Yeah.
So they've handed off to the engineers and the project managers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I guess we can start with the iPad, the new iPad Pros.
The iPad or
Okay,
the 14s.
well, iPhone 14 Pro.
Yes.
Okay,
So here we
there's
go.
there's two. Yeah, here we go. There's two of them. There's iPhone 14 Pro, and then there's the iPhone 14 Pro Max.
Right.
Okay, okay. And the big deal about these two, this is the high end phones. One is 6.1 and the other one's 6.7 size
Six
screen.
inches.
Okay. Yes.
So
Screen size.
they're bigger than the 13 Pro Max right now.
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. And the big deal is that over the couple of years ago, they introduced what they called the notch. That's that little notch at the top of the phone.
Right.
A lot of people it was a little controversy. Nobody really, it didn't really mean anything. But, some of the Android phones just have a clear screen, just have a full screen. Well, Apple, they had what they called the notch, and they put the camera and some other features up there at the top of the screen. Now what they've done, they've come up with a thing they call there's a notch there, but it's not a hard notch. It's a sort of like a software notch.
Okay.
Okay, built into the phone, and it's called the dynamic island.
Okay.
Okay, and that's where all your notifications, They come through the top of the screen, baseball scores, um, you know, uh, what's next on the TV. There's all kinds of stuff
So is that like a
that
ticker,
like a ticker. That's
yeah,
probably the best way of saying it.
yeah,
Okay, and that is a kind of the neat. That's probably the biggest thing about the iPhone. I mean, it's the digital island, or they call it the dynamic island. It's
right,
pretty cool, and the screen is always on now.
yeah,
Okay, you don't have to constantly turn off and turn on your phone,
yeah,
and some new colors.
yeah. They've
Purple
got
being one of them.
deep purple, gold, silver, black. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it also comes with that ceramic shield. Now, could you give us an idea what that ceramic shield is?
It's something they came up with, with Gorilla Glass. Gorilla Glass makes their screens for them,
Right.
and they, it's water resistant,
So is
and
it
just
tougher to break or
yeah,
scratch?
yeah, it's real tough.
Yeah, here because they
They're
talk
making
about the
these phones these days. Yeah,
yeah. Well, here's the dynamic island you were just telling us about. Right
yeah,
here. See?
that's it right there.
It bubbles up music, sports scores, FaceTime. Wow.
Yeah. So the
Isn't that
screen is always on.
so the
Okay.
screen increases. Look at that.
Yeah. Right.
Wow. That's different. That's different. I
Yeah.
mean, right now on the old iPhones as well as the Androids, when you get notifications, they're a pain in the butt. They'll just pop down and I sometimes have a hard time controlling it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, Increased battery life. You know.
How much is the battery life increased by?
Well, if you give me a second, I'll find out for you. Does it say on your?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Let's see if we can find it. I think
What's
I
in the
heard it was
box?
like an all-day battery. They called it an all-day battery, but I thought I saw 60 plus hours.
Oh, it's an ungodly amount.
There we go. A battery that's all in all day. It's 29 hours, which of course includes the video playback, but up to 23 hours video playback on the Pro. Now, one thing that they talked about, Doug, I don't know if you caught on to it, is they eliminated the physical SIM chip. Every
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. That's something they actually did a little while ago. I think maybe the last, like the Pro Mask,
Right.
last year. Okay. And that way you can go from, carrier to carrier. You don't have to worry about a SIM chip. For example, I got this Apple, when I bought this Apple CE this summer,
Uh huh.
okay, which is a lower price phone, I had to get a SIM chip. I had to take the SIM chip out of my old phone and put it in this.
Right.
And I had to wait a couple of days. I actually had to wait a couple of days because um, I got the phone like on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
and my carrier said that and he said I'll ship it to you, and I didn't actually didn't get it till
Right.
Wednesday or Thursday,
Well, one of
and
the
so
nice things about the eSIM chip, as they call it, not only do you not have to worry about getting a SIM when you switch carriers, the nice thing that I was reading is that you can have multiple phone numbers on the eSIM chip. So, in
right,
theory, let's say you have a phone and you can have multiple phone numbers now on the phone. which is kind
Correct.
of
Yeah.
interesting, you know,
Yeah.
because before, every SIM chip was tied to I call it, is it IMEAI number, and then that was tied to a physical phone number. But now one phone can have multiple phone numbers to it and multiple data plans and stuff like that. So
For
that's kind of
example, if you
cool.
go to, let's say that you have Google Fi, is it Google Fi, isn't it? Yeah. Overseas, let's say you go overseas and you want to use Google Fi, well then if you got a plan with Google Fi, well then you can switch over.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
people here that live on the border. They want to travel down to Mexico. All they got to
Mm-hmm.
do is attach to, one of the Mexican cell phone companies and still use your phone. The old
Right.
days of having to go to a gas station over there and buying a burner phone just to use it to make calls is over. Because now you'll be able to assign multiple carriers to a single phone. I mean, I don't know how the carriers are going to respond to that. They may not like it, you know. Uh,
Oh, I'm sure they've had their
they're two
talks with the
cents.
carriers.
I'm pretty
I'm sure they've
sure.
had their discussions.
And this phone has the A16 Bionic chip. I see.
Yeah, a new chip, A16.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got a 6-core CPU, and it's got a 5-core GPU, which is graphics processing unit. So, in theory, you can kind of play some pretty neat games on this phone with this 5-core GPU.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
and also too, this is going to be a great phone. This is going to be a great phone. Either one of them is going to be a great phone for when continuity drops on iOS 16 and the new Mac software, where you can have FaceTime calls and Zoom calls.
right.
Okay, and with your phone as your compute as your Zoom camera. Okay,
Yeah.
and that way there's all kinds of possibilities. So I think Apple thinks that why should they improve the cameras on the Macs, okay, while they can just come up with a super phone like these and just use continuity.
Right. Well, one of the things that they talked about in the video presentation, which I was hoping to present tonight, but you and I had a discussion earlier with regards to the YouTube police. I told you
Mm-hmm.
that our last Apple presentation, they kind of got annoyed because I used the video of Tim Apple's keynote and they didn't like it. So, to avoid any problems with the YouTube police, I decided not to show it. But let's talk about what they did introduce. It's called Emergency SOS via satellite. Can you give us a little bit of insight into
Yeah,
that?
from what I understand is that if you go somewhere like my daughter lives up in Minnesota,
Yeah,
and her and her family they like to camp,
yeah,
okay, and they go to campgrounds, and lots of places don't have Wi-Fi or cell phone or cell coverage.
right,
Okay, so if they go for a hike, okay, let's say they go for a hike, or something happens, there's an emergency situation. Well, what they can do is that they can do this SOS via satellite, and anywhere in the world they can, you know, notify the first responders, to come in and help them out.
right,
Okay, and this goes along with when we start talking about the Apple watches.
right.
Okay,
Now, one of the
and
things that they mentioned, and of course, I was curious about this feature because the very first thing when they mentioned satellite, well, my little ears perked up. And I said, well, I wonder which satellite company they're working with. Well, of course, they never mentioned it, right?
No,
But
they didn't mention it.
the way I saw the feature in the presentation is this. Basically, what it is they've developed some algorithms and software within the phone that you have to
Hmm.
point up to the sky to a specific satellite. And for example, it really is for emergency purposes. They've predefined in this software feature the type of phrases that you would typically transmit in case of an emergency. So, in other words, it's not full blown texting, it's phrase texting because of the latency issue still with the satellites, right?
Right, right.
So if for example, you're somewhere out hiking like you mentioned and you break a leg or whatever, right? You'll be able
Hmm.
to point the phone to a up at the sky, and don't ask me how or where, but it the way I the way it was presented, and then you'll be presented little text options that will transmit to the satellite. But they also said that if, for example, in the area there isn't first responders that can reply back, they will send that text information to a first responder office. It was a little confusing, but
No, nobody. They didn't really demonstrate it that. They really didn't demonstrate it that much.
yeah,
Very well. I mean, I've listened to other podcasts, and the question was asked. If you're out hiking with no cell phone coverage and you want to text your wife, okay, will you be able to do that? We don't know that. There's a lot of things, a lot of unanswered questions.
yeah, and the service actually doesn't come on until November, according to what they
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what I really wanted to happen. I wanted to somebody at Apple that had dinner a few months ago with Elon Musk and struck a deal with Starlink. That's what I wanted. you know,
Apple's never going to do that. They're too secretive about that.
I know,
You know,
I
you
know,
know.
but
And no, even if they did, Apple would come back and say, well, we developed this technology. Okay, they
yeah,
would take credit for it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't say we promised. I mean, we partnered with Starlink or something like that, but they didn't say that. So I think it's well,
I'm
not till
curious.
November, but
Yeah,
you're not going to get the phones anyway till probably in October.
yeah,
And iOS 16 probably requires iOS 16,
yeah,
and that hasn't dropped.
yeah,
Okay, and it may not drop until October, November because they postponed it on the new iPads
yeah.
because they need Stage Manager to work right. So it may be till then till we see this, but it's an interesting concept because you see the movies, the old movies, like they're in the Himalayas or something, and they got these big, huge satellite phones,
Yeah,
you
like
know,
like the one Bin
and
Laden used to use,
yeah, the big satellite phones,
courtesy of the
and
CIA, by the way.
yeah, and now they can just use this SOS deal,
Yeah.
so
Well,
a lot of
what's
unanswered questions, but
yeah. Well, what's
so it's
interesting if you think about that feature, where the thing is searching for a satellite. It kind of reminds you like of the old days. Remember when we had those big ass C-band satellite dishes with the transponders? And if you wanted
yeah,
to watch something, the thing you'd have to get the thing to move satellite to satellite. That kind of went away when the K-band dishes like Prime Star and DirecTV came about, but this is kind of similar. You gotta find the satellite to send your
yeah.
emergency text message.
I don't know if you remember. About 15 years ago, 20 years ago. There's a movie called Congo,
Oh
and
yeah,
it was yeah, it was a forerunner for monkeypox. Okay, and and they were out in the middle of the jungle and already used a satellite phone. They had to, they had a portable dish they had to set up
Yeah.
and everything. And
Well,
who would
talk.
know that we have monkeypox now?
Yeah. Well, talk to us a little bit about crash detection. What's that all
Yeah,
about?
well, Apple's always been the forerunner. They like, emergency situations that Apple eats that stuff up.
Yeah.
I mean, they've always had that, on the watches, like on the
Yeah.
watches, um, say you got a heart problem, and it's an emergency situation, it sends a text message to your designated, you know, partner or something, and they get you help. And then on the watches, quite a long time ago, they had a fall feature. When you
Right.
fall down, instead of carrying a little thing around your neck, so I'm falling, I can't get up.
Right.
Okay,
Or the
yeah,
clapper.
or the clapper, or if you watch the finale of You Better Call Saul, Carol Burnett had a thing of emergency response around her neck, and that's how she got Saul arrested by clicking that. But they've always had this on the watches. Okay, so now they've taken it over to the phones, of course, and they made it better. So let's say, for example, you're in a bad auto, you're going down Boca Chica, and somebody pulls out in front of you. Oh, that would never happen. Okay,
Not in
and
Brownsville.
you would crash into them, and you'd have a major accident. Well, this would call either a first responder or the one that you designate that's going to help you out.
Wow.
So, like when OnStar, on the GM cars and stuff,
Right.
that you pay all that money for OnStar, and your car crashes and OnStar calls you. Well, this is you just carry this all over the place.
Wow.
Or let's say that you're our president and he's on his bike and he comes to a stop and he falls off his bike. Well, hey, he
He'll
can
have.
get help from Jill.
That's right.
Jill will come over there to help him out.
That's right. He'll have
Yeah,
his iPhone do a bike crash detection, or when he's falling up
like
the stairwell on the airplane.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So Apple's always been, for health reasons, we've all seen stories that the Apple Watch saved somebody's life.
Right.
Okay, okay, and somebody's fell down, and if you've got knee implants like I do, hey, once you go down on the floor, you're not going to get up.
Right. Right.
Okay, you need help getting up. If you and I've fallen a few times, um, I fall over something, and I've fallen and nobody's been around, and it's taken me a little while to get up.
Right.
But it's Apple eats that stuff up. They
Well,
love that stuff.
well, there was definitely some videos last night, last yesterday, with regards to the Apple Watch and how it did help in certain situations. They had a young kid who apparently saved himself from a bear that had actually come into the
Yeah.
cabin. And I don't know what other ones I saw. That one kind of caught my attention, but you're right. Well, that's a pretty neat feature, I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
Tim Apple, he gets, those emails all the time from people where the Apple Watch has saved their life, okay?
Right.
And he thinks that's the best, and it's good publicity too. So Apple's going to take advantage of that, and they've
Yeah.
done this on this SOS feature and stuff, and this crash detection.
Well, it comes with a 48 megapixel main
Yeah,
camera.
quadruple the amount.
Yeah, look at that. Four
Yeah,
times the
4x.
resolution.
Yeah, yeah, quadruple the amount of megapixels. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
the other thing they mentioned, which I was very surprised, is on the front end camera. I don't know if they mention it here, but it is the first time that the front end camera has an autofocus feature. Logitech webcams, that's what kind of differentiates them from all the other webcams is they've always had a auto
Hmm.
focus feature. I have mine turned off because it's a pain in the butt for podcasting, but um, it's the first time that the front end camera has autofocus. So it'll
Exactly.
zoom back and forth depending on the condition of the subject, so to speak. So
Yeah,
that's
something
kind of
else
neat.
that yeah, something else for Zoom calls. It's going to be along with with continuity in
Yeah,
the software. You can just use your phone as your net camera
yeah,
instead of relying on the computer phone, on the computer camera.
yeah. Now
So they're kind of smart about that.
I've really been impressed with the camera features, and of course, I know that you are tied to someone very special that is a photographer for professionally. And
Hmm.
I'm curious, I've never asked her because she's usually cooking when we see her online. But now with the 14, is there any possibility that the traditional DSLR could go away with all
No,
these improvements?
she would tell you that you're always going to have probably a DSLR,
Yeah,
you know, like a Canon 5D Mark III or something like that.
yeah,
But because a lot of her, when she got, a lot of customers, they think that they can just use some phone that's in the family
right,
for an event. And
right,
then when they get it, they go, oh, no, it's not going to work.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
So, but for the average consumer, the guy that, the person that takes, thousands of pictures every day or, at least hundreds.
yeah,
Okay. The camera's fine. And on the phone. And not only that, the, it's a lot, you don't have to carry a 5 pound camera around with you, and
right,
it automatically uploads it up to the cloud, and
yeah.
then you can share them. I mean, you can share them all over the world.
Exactly. But it's just impressive how far, the camera has come around, especially on the iPhones. I mean, there's just some
Yeah,
stunning
and
pictures.
I don't know how much if I don't know if you follow the shows on the Discovery Channel, like the home and garden shows,
Right.
like like yeah, um, a lot of the houses, you know, those are, most of those shows are kind of low budget. There's not big production values in those.
Right.
Okay, and they'll carry an iPhone around the house and say, look what happened to our bathroom. Okay, and and we really messed it up and all that. And they carry it on a, iPhone deal. And, and then when they complete the project or whatever, I mean, I'm sure in some cases they actually use the iPhone. There's been movies made with just the iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I know a few videographers that have come down, these video bloggers, especially
Yeah.
down here for SpaceX. I mean, they're using a combination of things to do some of their, minute by minute postings of Starbase, and I've seen some of them use, iPhones for that, you know. Well,
But
definitely. Go ahead.
but you're still going to use a DSLR, like for really close up stuff, like headshot or whatever special event, so I mean, it's fine, but
Yeah,
the camera's come a long ways
yeah,
since the days of the old flip phones, right?
yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. I remember the days when the first cameras were like 640 by 480 resolution, which was pitiful. You know,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
pitiful. Now, of
yeah.
course, we talked about the Pro, and of course, there's the iPhone 14.
Well,
and a
there's two iPhone 14 Pros, the Pro 6.1
right,
and the 6.7.
right.
Okay.
And there's a 14 and a 14 plus. They start at
Yeah,
like
but
$799.
the good thing about just wait a second here. One thing about the upper end phones, the Pro phones, the prices have not gone up.
Mm-hmm.
That was always the rumor before the event. Apple was going to raise the prices.
Right.
Okay. That was a big rumor, but
That
they
was the
didn't do it.
concern that they were going to go up by
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
they didn't do it. They figured out a way to keep the price down. So,
Yeah,
you know,
that was pretty encouraging because I mean, I, I know that $200 is $200. For most of us, well, for some of us, it may not be much, but for a lot of people, it may have been a breaking point. Um,
oh, yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
definitely they've got a assortment of colors, and like you mentioned, there's a 6.1, 6.7 for the plus. Um, I think they've got most of the features that are in the Pro, right? Yeah, I believe so.
Are you talking about the 14s now?
Yeah, the
The regular
14s.
14s?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
A lot of the features, it doesn't have the A16 chip. It still has the old chip in it.
Oh, it's got the
Okay.
A15.
A15, yeah.
Yeah.
But still has a notch. If you notice, it doesn't have the
Oh, yeah.
dynamic
Look at
island.
that. It doesn't have
Yeah,
the new notch thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I
And
see that.
or yeah, so but it's there again, they didn't raise the price of it and they kind of compressed the line a little bit. They got rid of the iPhone mini,
Okay.
okay,
All
and they
right.
came up with so you got the iPhone 14 and then you got two lower price phones and then you got the Pro phones. So
Right.
you got basically four new phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at
So you get
that.
a little bit extra, you lose a little bit of features, but you know, not much. All depends what your budget is.
Right. Right. Well, I'm not
And
sure that. Yeah, go ahead.
Apple in the last couple of years have done quite a bit on their financing. They've come up with, the Apple Card, and then, and then, you can pay over time. They
Right.
realized that I can remember back in the day that you had to come up with like $600, $800 for a phone. That
Right.
was hard to do.
Right.
And now they have all kinds of plans. You can get them like low as $19 a month or whatever.
Right.
Okay. It's just for everything. For the AirPods, the Mac, they got all kinds of financing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, I wouldn't mind getting just the regular 14. I don't know if I really need the Pro Max at this point, but you know, um yeah, it looks like a pretty good neat phone here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next big thing, which and we'll talk about the AirPods after the Apple Watch section, because I think Apple
Okay.
spent a hell of a time yesterday. First of all, with the Series 8, and then followed by the SE,
Yeah.
and then
SE.
followed by the Ultra. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Apple Watch Series 8. Uh, what can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, it's a nice watch.
It's a nice watch. It's got the cellular feature on it.
Yeah,
Okay. That's that's probably the big difference between that and the SE.
yeah,
The SEs don't have the cellular,
yeah.
and it's
Well, one of the things they talked about, or they stressed about when they introduced the Series 8, was some of the health features. And as you and I were talking offline, They spent quite a bit of time, these ladies, I guess, that work for Apple, that one of the things they really incorporated is women's health apps into this. And the big thing they spent on was an ovulation uh, scanning or screening. I guess the phone has the ability to determine the best time for ovulation. I mean, when I was hearing this, I was like, well, I'm a male. I don't really care about this stuff, but you know,
There's going to be some comics make fun of that.
I know, the old
I,
days, grandma would have gotten a temperature, a thermometer, and told, the granddaughter, here, use a thermometer to record your temperature. Well, now, your watch is going to tell you that. So you've got to
yeah,
call the,
they've had the administration on the watch for quite some time,
yeah,
for 2 or 3 years.
yeah.
So it was just a natural, natural evolution to add the ovulation.
Yeah,
And
the only thing left they could have done was putting an auto text feature to the hubby to come home right away.
yeah, or either that or help the husband out.
I know, right?
You
Give him a
probably get a
little
little prick on
jolt.
your probably some comedian like Chappelle or somebody like that will come up with saying that, yeah, the husband, the partner will get a little prick on his wrist saying, okay, instead of using, Viagra or something, that would
I
help him
thought you were
out.
gonna say a prick on his prick,
Didn't want
but
to say that.
but anyway, they really spent a lot of time on the health features in general. They talked about the
Yeah.
cardiac, uh, features,
Right.
the blood oxygen level for somebody like me that, in the past I've had issues with
See, that's the difference between the
oxidization.
Apple 8 watch versus the SE. The SE doesn't have the oxygen feature.
Yeah. I mean, right
Yeah.
now, if I want to go measure my blood O2 levels, I have to pull out my CVS oximeter that I bought and, plug it in. Well, now you don't need that. You've got the
Right.
watch here that's going to give you your blood O2 levels. And imagine if this feature had been available 2 years ago for COVID. People at home
Hmm.
who may have been going through COVID could have benefited from it. But maybe that's a
Right.
lesson from COVID, that actually was a neat app to have.
I saw on a baseball game commercial. I was watching a baseball game and they had a COVID tester. They showed a commercial. It was in between innings of, a COVID test that you could buy. It looked like a USB dongle.
Yeah,
Okay, and you blew into it or something like that.
yeah,
And but yeah, I think they've had the oxygen for a couple years, and then also too they had the EKG.
right,
Okay, and then they've had the when you fall, that's been around for a little while,
right.
but they've never been able to, the holy grail out of this whole thing is that diabetes. If they could perform, you check your A1C through the watch or your blood pressure. Okay. And they've never been able to crack that nut, or at least they haven't thrown it out there yet. Maybe that's going to be a feature for next year.
We've
Okay,
got a
but I'm sure
viewer
the
that's asking
FDA.
what's the main difference between the 6 and the 8. Is it the 6 measures oxygen? It's the 8 that measures oxygen, or both?
No, the 8 measures the oxygen, the SE does not.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so Miss Fernanda, that's the difference between the 6 and the 8, that the 8
Yeah.
measures the oxygen.
And the Apple 8 has has cellular, so you actually don't need your iPhone.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But the SE, you have to have, it's just a Wi-Fi.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So like this watch here, this is an old watch. This is a, like a iPhone 5. I
Yeah.
mean, iWatch 5. It's got cellular, but I don't have it turned on because it's an extra data bill, $12 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm cheap.
Yeah.
So, and
Well,
I'm around the house all day, and so I'm on Wi-Fi.
yeah. Well, look at this. They've got some kind of measurement for sleep. So it'll tell you
That's been around.
how
That's
many.
been around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's been around for a year or two.
it's interesting, for those of us that suffer from sleep apnea. If we use any type of CPAP machine, that's one of the features on some of them that they kind of record your, I don't know, your breathing patterns. And it can kind of tell you, how many times you stop breathing at night. It'd be
Exactly.
nice if we could ever get to that point where that same capability or functions could actually come around on a watch.
Yeah,
um
that data's on your watch, and then it gets transferred on your health app on your phone.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. That you can look all that history up
Yeah.
and see how you're sleeping and stuff. And then there's some third party apps that kind of go along with it too.
Yeah, here's the blood oxygen one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, also emergency SOS as well on the
They
phone.
they that's they like to eat that. Apple eats that stuff up, man. It's good. That's good press.
Yeah. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely good features. I mean, think of
Yeah.
all the things that have happened over the year, whether it's COVID or elderly people at home falling or being by themselves, or God forbid, there's some kind of lockdown in a school. We've had so many shootings. It just, we talked about that, in a previous podcast of how this technology now, because of the circumstances and the life events that we live in, it's almost a necessity, to be in communication all the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It
yeah.
sure is.
Now,
The eight, is just a little bit better made than the SE,
yeah,
but it's fine. The SE is okay,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Now
you,
they a lot of health features, a lot of things with workouts, a lot of fitness stuff.
you get
Uh,
12 months of Pro Fitness, the Apple Fitness, and you
yeah.
get that free when you buy one. I think it's 12 months.
Now they talked about international roaming. I guess that's something that is coming soon. That Apple is working with various carriers throughout the world
Right.
to introduce international roaming. You know.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And Apple's more or less in 123 countries now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It just makes sense. Yeah, I guess one of our female viewers is saying that the big feature is the ovulation feature.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true, but um, it's it's better battery life,
Yeah.
um, better battery life, always on screen. The SE doesn't have the always on screen.
Okay.
Okay, the eight does. Okay, so so Apple, just like everybody else, they go, you know, better, best. I mean, how's it? Best, better, or better. They
Yeah.
have three. They have three types.
Yeah.
The Apple, the SE, that would be the lower market.
Right.
and then the 8 would be the medium market, and then of course, so the Ultra would be the higher price one.
Well, let's jump into the Ultra. I know we were going to talk about the
That's
SC.
what I'm excited about.
Yeah,
That's what
but
I'm
I think
excited
we
about.
can kind of forego based on time. We can go straight into the Apple Watch Ultra. So let's look at that and see what the big deal about it is. So can you give us a little bit of insight on that?
Yeah, it is. It's more or less, you can, as a hike, if you're a mountain climber
Right.
or a hiker or a diver, okay, it all works for you. A
Yeah.
runner, you ride your cycle, your bicycle,
Yeah.
and then it's got a lot of neat features, and it's built very rugged. It's very rugged, okay.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest features is the compass. They have a compass built on the rock face, on the clock face,
Right.
right? And that's kind of cool because if you're out in the wilderness, your compass is your most important tool, really.
Right. You
Okay.
mentioned ruggedness, and I believe the case is made out of all titanium. That's
Aircraft titanium.
aircraft titanium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
And
go ahead.
um, the thing I'm interested in, I've always wanted to be a skin diver. I always wanted to skin dive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And um, most people on this podcast don't remember, but back in the day, there used to be a TV show called Sea Hunt. Lloyd Bridges was in it. Okay. And then, now they've got, if you watch, Shark Week or something like that, now they've got these big dive watches. They call them dive computers.
Right.
And I bet they cost like thousands of dollars, those dive computers.
Right.
Well, in Sea Hunt, the big deal is that he could, he couldn't go up. He had to decompress in order to go up.
Right.
Okay. Well, this case, to watch, it can go down. For one thing, you can go down. It replaces, for one thing, it replaces your dive computer.
Right.
You can go down to 100 feet, which is pretty amazing.
Right.
That's a lot of pressure. And
Right.
then when you come back up, it has an algorithm. It's got a dive history deal and all that, and it tells you how fast you can come up and things like that. Anything to do with oceanography, if you're a diver, okay, it'll work out. Okay. And they've worked with Apple, on their video. They worked with world renowned oceanographer and stuff. And and they've worked with them, and it basically replaces the dive computer.
So the
Okay.
divers
And
don't need the dive computer anymore with this Apple
according
Watch Ultra.
according to what they said on the presentation, that they can replace, and they can just wear the Apple Watch all the time.
Right, and I
If
believe that they coordinated this design with one of the biggest diving companies. I can't remember
Yeah,
the name of
that
it.
was on the video. Yeah, the
Yeah,
video. Yeah, the guy.
yeah, he was on a
And,
boat or something like that, if I remember.
yeah.
Now,
Yep,
one
he
of
sure was.
now one of the other things that they mentioned was that they added a second speaker to this Ultra Watch and three microphones.
Right. So if you're up on a mountaintop and somebody calls you, you need to be able to talk to them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or at least listen to them, or your SOS. They got this SOS feature,
right.
you know, that shoots out that, like, it's like a banshee or something, makes a big loud noise
Yeah,
in case you get in trouble. And,
yeah.
the clock faces, I mean, the watch face is pretty awesome, I think.
There's the
And
compass you were talking about.
yeah, yeah. And if let's say that you're a triathlete,
Yeah,
okay, and um, you can go from one event to the other.
yeah,
For example, you're doing a marathon. Okay, so you start out with the 26-mile run, and then you do the 100-mile bike ride, and then you swim for 2.5 miles.
yeah.
And it automatically goes to one event to the other.
Right.
And the battery life is like, I don't know, 36 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
And you put it in low data mode, it goes up to 60 hours.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with this watch. Um, and the price isn't really outrageous. It's about $800.
Yeah.
Okay, and the watch bands are pretty awesome looking.
Well, I don't know if you caught on towards the tail end of it. It supports up to 36 hours, but then in the fall, they're going to introduce a software solution that's going to optimize it to last up to 60 hours.
That's
So,
pretty awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
imagine like what, 5 days? Maybe?
five
Or,
days.
yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
five
you
days.
won't
So
have to
if
worry
you're on
about
a camping
charging
trip,
it.
yeah, if you're on a camping trip somewhere and you don't have any electricity or you can't charge it, well then you put it in low data mode. And there's a on the watch now. There's a low data mode there now.
Yeah.
But to tell you the truth, okay, I swim quite a bit. I swim quite a bit. And I go out in the pool and I'm out in the pool. I do an hour swimming and I do another hour of running in place. And I have some dumbbells I use to exercise with.
Right.
Okay. And that's about 2 hours. And when I come in, my watch is pretty darn dead.
Wow.
Okay. It's down to about 20%.
Wow.
Okay. So, this is encouraging,
Yeah.
and yeah, and
Now they really talked about different bands. I mean, they got some really
yeah.
funky ones out there too now.
Oh,
Look
they
at
got some
that.
nice bands, all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on here. Let's talk about the AirPods. What's new
Yeah.
with them?
Well, I mean, they're more improved, longer battery, longer life, 6 hours now.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's always good. And I believe they have more speakers in them.
Yeah.
Apple's into spatial audio, and on the headphones, they like the mine are, a number of years old, but they have, noise canceling, and then they have transparent.
Now,
Okay.
what is spatial audio? I still don't understand what that's all about.
It's something Apple introduced about a year ago on iTunes and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's, it's like not stereo, but it's more,
It's
better
more than
sounding.
stereo.
Yeah, there's
It
not a lot of
almost,
yeah, there's not a lot of music on spatial yet, but but Apple has got artists to use it, and it sounds pretty good. I mean, there's some jazz. I mean, I listen to jazz, and it sounds good.
yeah.
Okay,
And
and
they've got a chip built into these Pros, which is kind of interesting. It's called the H2 chip.
yeah, and I don't know if you noticed or not, but you probably didn't watch this on an Apple TV, but I watched it on Apple TV, and my Apple TV is it's pretty old.
Uh huh.
Okay, and they did the presentation and stuff in spatial audio.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, because I was going to change the speakers
Yeah.
on my Apple TV. I looked down there and it's on a spatial audio. So they
Yeah.
did and so that means they probably did it on the web too on spatial audio.
Yeah. Now
So
these, yeah, these headphones
that's
that
sort of
I,
like
yeah, go.
it's another gimmick Apple. I mean, they all come up with this. Well, the lossless. A few years ago, lossless was a big deal.
Right.
Yeah, and now Apple came out with the spatial.
Well,
So it sounds pretty good
I tell you
and
what, I
free.
mean, I was sold on noise cancellation when I bought some Bose that I bought when I was traveling back and forth with our good old employer. And They helped, especially when you're in a airplane in that tin can for 3 hours crisscrossing places. You don't want to hear the engine, you don't want to hear anything, and noise
Yeah, it's not
cancellation
as
is
good as
great.
the Bose, the big, the head that,
Right.
the tin cans.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, and say you're trying to watch TV
Yeah.
or something, and you get like some background noise, people are over the house or something, and they're talking to your partner because she's cooking, and they get talking, and you can't hardly hear the TV, but then you want to get that, make sure that you get that special Fox News alert, okay,
Right.
and you can, and your partner doesn't want to listen to Bill O'Reilly or Tucker Carlson or something, so you put your headphones in and you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course
But
this one's I guess wireless charging too. Yeah.
yeah, the big deal about that is that now you can charge your AirPods with the same charger you use for your watch.
Right.
It's a Qi charger. I got in my office here. My lamp is a lamp with a Qi charger, so I can put my phone on there and the AirPods themselves. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's how I charge my AirPods. I don't use cables anymore,
Well, look
even
at
though this
this.
is
They
annoying.
still kept that charger. The old charger as well. Look at that down
Yeah, they
here.
kept that. Yeah, they kept that. They had to keep that. But these have a speaker in them. These new
Yeah.
ones have a speaker.
Yeah.
So, for example, everybody constantly loses their AirPods.
Right.
Okay, okay. And as a matter of fact, on my this is my car keys and stuff, and I have a little pouch that I put my AirPods in. But then
Mhm.
I also, Apple's got they call it an AirTag. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Yeah. I see that.
Okay. Yeah, and that hooks up to your watch and your phone. Okay, in case you lose your iPod case, your AirPod case.
Right.
Okay. Now I use a pouch. Okay, a lot of people don't use a pouch, and my daughter especially, she's constantly losing her case, or she loses one AirPod, the left or the right or whatever.
Right.
And then she says, "Oh, Daddy, I got to have some." And then she goes out and she spends money, and then later on she finds them in the car. The other one
Right.
is in the car.
Yeah.
So, or do what I did one day. I had a set of AirPods, and it fell out of the pouch or whatever, and it's just I went inside and I came back out and it was all smashed up. It was on the ground
Oh my gosh.
on one AirPod. So,
Yeah.
but the speaker deal is pretty good, and also too, these have a lanyard.
Right.
Okay, the new ones have a lanyard, which is kind of neat because a lot of people, they like putting them around their neck, like me.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't lose them.
Yeah.
And
Huh.
so the air tags. I mean, Apple realizes that a lot of people loses. One earbud, right or left, right,
Right. Right.
or both, but usually it's usually one, and then they have to buy a whole new one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's encouraging.
Yeah.
But
It
the battery life's nice.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well,
Yeah,
definitely there was some nice products that were, introduced, and some of them actually released yesterday. That kind of wraps up our September event. Are there any future events here between now and the end of the
yeah,
year?
yeah. Look for an event probably in October,
Yeah.
and what they're going to do is probably roll out new iPads.
Okay.
Okay, they'll probably roll out maybe a 27-inch iMac with the M2 chip.
Uh huh.
Okay, they might put an M2 chip. Like right now, I'm on a 24-inch with an M1 chip. Okay, um, it's about a little over a year old. That technology. Wouldn't be surprised they come out with an M2 chip on the 24-inch Mac. Also, too, the cheese grater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the cheese grater. Okay, it's a very high end Mac,
Right.
but okay, but it still has Intel in it.
Wow.
Just about everything's moved over from Intel over to Silicon.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't be surprised you'll see a new cheese grater with maybe like a M2 Plus chip,
Right.
something like that, and then also too with the um, M2 Plus chip, and maybe even a new iMac Pro. You
Wow.
know,
Wow.
instead of coming up with a 27-inch iMac, maybe they'll come up with a 27-inch or a 32-inch iMac iMac Pro.
Right.
Okay, so for those people that can't, they always want to go good, better, best. They
Right.
don't want to leave, they don't want to leave any money on the table. Okay, and
Absolutely.
so, yeah, so that's like you look at the whole Apple line, the iPhone's good, better, best. Watches now, good, better, best. The iPads definitely, good, better. You got the cheap 329 student iPad, and then you got the iPad Air, and then you got the Pros. Okay, that will probably go with probably a bigger chip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would say they'll probably bring up the student iPad maybe up to an M1 chip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to touch the mini iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and maybe I don't know, maybe a new, who knows, the elusive headphones. But I
Wow.
don't think that you're going to see the headphones this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the ones that it's sort of like Google Glass.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's got the AR and all that stuff in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting. We definitely will look forward to that event here in October. I understand that we're going to be launching a new show on Saturday. Could you give us a little bit of insight into what that's going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be a baseball show. Um, it's going to be kind of unique because we're
Yeah.
going to go through um, probably, I'm primarily a St. Louis Cardinal fan.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in the month of September, and the playoff picture is they start the playoffs October 7th. Okay, so the playoff picture is pretty much set. There's a couple teams that and the wild cards will start, and we'll explore that. We'll look at the standings, maybe some features on some ball players.
Right.
Um, most of your baseball shows anymore, the only thing they want to talk about is the Yankees, the Mets, and the Dodgers, and maybe Atlanta. So I would like to get into maybe the Astros more,
Right.
maybe the Astros, the Cardinals, and some other teams, and
Yeah.
even the teams that aren't so great, like Cincinnati and the Cubs. Okay,
Well, I think
and
the
we'll talk.
Astros have already tied or are ahead in the West, right? In their division or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe I've kind of, and maybe we can talk about an old time Hall of Famer of what he's done in the past. Maybe
Yeah.
a little 5-minute deal.
Yeah.
The reason why the guy's in the Hall of Fame or the Cardinal Hall of Fame or whatever. So it's going to be. I'm looking forward to it,
All
and
right.
you don't know much about baseball. We set this up, and so we're going to set this up right. Is that you're going to ask questions, okay? And
Right.
you're going to say, well, why did the player do this, or what's a double play, or sacrifice fly, or
Yeah.
or what is a Herboski?
Yeah.
Okay, what is a Herboski? Okay,
Yeah.
and things like that,
Yeah.
and so it should be kind of entertaining.
Well, it's going to be the first time that I give up the primary hosting chair. I'm going to be the sidekick this time around. So it'll be
There you go.
fun. I don't know yet the time, but it'll be in the evening. I believe that ad will go out tomorrow. So everybody, tune in for this show that is going to be a spin-off here. It will be broadcast on Facebook Live, YouTube's. It'll be on Spotify and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. So We've kind of expanded our social media reach, and we'll continue to introduce additional platforms in the future. But we're pretty excited about this new show with Doug taking the lead here with regards to baseball. And he's correct. I'm not a baseball expert. I've only, attended a few baseball games in my lifetime, and that was back in the old Astrodome in the nosebleed section.
Yeah, and maybe we can get some fan participation. Maybe they
Yeah,
can,
yeah,
email us with questions in
yeah.
advance, or either that, or join
Or
the
just,
chat line
yeah,
and see what they
absolutely.
say. And
Yeah. All
yeah,
righty, Doug. Well, it was a great show tonight. It was very informative. It's going to be pretty exciting to see some of these products, and we're looking forward to Saturday, and we're looking forward to the new show. Excuse me, the new products that are going to be released in October with Apple. So we'll be back again down at Apple Park to see what the latest and greatest is coming our way. So, everybody, that's it for tonight. Doug, once again, thank you for being on the show tonight.
thank you for having me. It's always a privilege.
It's always a pleasure having you, Doug. And everybody, thank you for tuning in and watching. Like I said, for anybody that missed the show, you can catch it on the social media networks, any 5 of them, both in video and audio. Have a good night, everybody.